Okay, today I'm going to be putting the spare engine in my Durant, or starting the process anyway. If you've watched my previous video on the Durant, you'll know that one of the pistons dissolved itself. So I'm going to be putting the spare engine in today. So the spare engine does need some parts, but I'm going to interchange some parts. I'm also going to be doing a no-no and reusing some of the gaskets, like the manifold gasket and the head gasket. Okay, so I went to my dad's house in my grandpa's truck and I picked up the spare engine. There it is. It needs some work as well. So piston number 3 has destroyed itself in there as well. So I have to fix that. I also have to put the rocker arm in there and one of the valve springs right there. So it needs some work, and also I'll have to time it because the generator has been pulled and it's out of time. Okay, here is our spare engine, which is also from 1928. And here is our original engine, which I'm going to take out and rebuild. Let's go ahead and open up the floor under here so I can remove the flywheel on the original engine. So I guess while the engine is out, I will repair it because that'll make my job easier. So I'm actually going to set it down and remove the head on there and pull the cracked cylinder. This has piston. Number 3 piston is cracked in this, so I'll remove it and replace it. Okay, let's pull the head off this engine. I've loosened the bolts. There it is. Ooh, it needs to be cleaned bad. But everything looks to be intact. So we'll be pulling number 3 piston and replacing it. You can see the gap right there because the piston has destroyed itself. So we'll be pulling that and replacing it. But the cylinder wall looks smooth, so it's fine. Okay, I've turned the engine on its side. Now we're going to loosen these bolts so that we can lift out number 3 piston. You can see number 3 piston is chipped. It did not affect the cylinder wall. You can see that. It's not scratched or anything. So it is perfectly fine and intact. It's because that piston is made of a softer metal, way softer than the piston wall. Or the cylinder wall, excuse me. And for some reason these don't have cotter pins in them. So I'm going to put some cotter pins. That may have been why it failed, because they allowed it to back out, basically. Okay, I've loosened all that. Now let's push the piston up and remove it from the top. And let's see how bad the damage on the cylinder wall is, if there is any. Okay, I'm lifting it out. There it is. There's the piston itself. You can see. Let's check the cylinder wall. Let me turn on the flash. It looks fine. There is some oil in there, so that's a good sign, but it looks fine. I'll feel in there and make sure it's not like... Here, let's see if it's smooth. It's smooth, so it's still good. Okay. So now I'm actually going to take this engine out so I can just trade the parts out here and fix it that way, and then put in that engine. Okay, here's a little update. So I've removed the radiator, and I'm about to remove this engine. I've got to go behind it and remove the flywheel from the clutch, from the little clutch plate, and then I'm going to remove this engine after I remove all these connections as well and unbolt it. I've been thinking, and actually I probably don't have to remove that floor right there because I can undo those bolts right there, and that'll disconnect the flywheel and the clutch plate all together. Then I can remove the engine after I loosen it from its mounts. Okay, now I'm getting ready to pull this engine. So I've disconnected it from everything. And I've taken off the manifold too. Here's the manifold gasket. It's 2 copper sheets with asbestos in between. So I can reuse that. That's the same kind of gasket the head gasket is as well. Okay, I now have the original engine out of the car. I stamped the time and the date on the bottom right of this video. If you're on TikTok, you might have to hold the video or pinch the screen, and then it'll show you when you make it full screen. But y'all can see just how long it took me to get this engine out. So this is the original one. There it is. And we're going to be fixing that one up for now and putting it in there. There's the clutch plate. See? And the manifold and all that good stuff. Here's the flywheel. But yeah, we're going to be fixing up that engine and then rebuilding this one to make it like new, basically. Or equivalent of a new engine, but using the original. Okay, it is now slightly misting outside. but now I'm exchanging parts of the engines. I had the timing chain cover off of this one, and I'm going to put the generator on and time this one. And then I'll fix the valves and stuff and pull one of the pistons from this after I take the head off. Put the head gasket from this one on that one. Anyway, y'all get the point, and I'll get this one working. Okay, I've pulled the head on the original engine. There's the inside of it. Okay, upon closer inspection of the original engine and the replacement engine, not replacement engine, but spare engine, I have determined that I can pull this piston right here and put it where the other one failed, and I know exactly what caused that other piston to fail. So you have little rings on either side of here so that there's no play in here. Well, those rings had worn down on that piston that failed. And it failed because it had play on the crankshaft. So this engine right here had the same problem on piston 3. Here's piston 3 out of that engine. You can see it destroyed itself in this die cast, see? But this is made of a softer material than the cylinder walls. The cylinder walls are perfectly fine in this one. Thus, they're perfectly fine in this one. And this engine looks in better condition anyway. So I will still rebuild one of these engines, but I'm going to do it to that one. That way, when this one gives me a problem, I can have that one and then rebuild this one. So now I'm going to put everything back together, but I'm going to fix this piston. So let's pull number 3 and replace it with number 4 out of that one, and then we'll put it back in the car. Okay, here's the piston we're going to put in number 3 on the original engine. Okay, here is piston number 3 that committed piston aside inside my original engine. So I'm going to be swapping that out with one from the spare engine, and we should be good to go. Okay, I've put the new piston in place from the other engine. I had to go to Harbor Freight and buy a piston ring compressor, and I got the piston in there. I've tightened the bolts now, or the nuts. Now I've got to go and get some cotter pins and put them in there. And then we'll be good to go, and I'll put the engine back together. Now, what caused that piston to fail was, you see how there's material there, and this can't move back and forth that easily? This one too. These two pistons are missing that material. So I've got to go get another, basically that's a bearing. I've got to go get more bearings made. So I'm only going to get this car home, and I'm not going to drive it more than I have to. And then I'm going to fix these, the bearings on these, and we'll be good as new and good to go. So here's my spare oil pan gasket I ordered from Olson's Gaskets. They actually still make, they will cut at Olson's Gaskets all the gaskets this engine needs. Anyway, and there's the head gasket. I'm going to reuse the head gasket because I can. Okay, I've put together the original engine once again and tightened the head gasket, or the head down in a specific order. You have to go like that, basically. Anyway, okay, now I'm going to put the engine back in. Okay, I'm in the process of putting the engine in. I'm going to go ahead and put the clutch plate back on, the flywheel, and all that good stuff. Okay, it's now 8:27 p.m. You can barely see the engine, but you can see I have it back in the car, and all the gas things connected, and the oil pump gauge is connected. I've just got a few more things to put on, and then we'll test it. Okay, I have assembled the engine enough to test the car. Let's turn on the gas. Okay, that's got to fill up a little bit. And now I've connected the battery. Let's turn on the key. I'm going to crank start it, but I'm not going to show me crank starting it for the lack of time left. I only have 10 minutes for TikTok, so I'll just go ahead and crank it. And she runs. I need to tighten the clutch. I forgot to tighten the clutch down there. So I'll do that, and then it'll be good to go. But there it is.